Hi guys, okay, back to school is upon us, and I know for many of us, back to school looks a lot different this year. It certainly does for me. So if that sounds familiar and you need hearty breakfast that will get everybody through till lunch, these are for you. Okay, first up, I'm gonna show you how to make some delicious oat flour pancakes. So I typically will double the recipe on Sundays, feed a few to my kids, and then package the rest up for the freezer. That way during the week, all they have to do is microwave the pancakes, and it is a real time saver. We're gonna add 2¼ cups of old-fashioned oats. So these are not the quick cooking oats. You want the old-fashioned. You're gonna put those in first to the blender because the blender is gonna turn them into a oat flour. Then for our sweetness, we're not gonna use sugar. We're going to use a ripe banana. The riper it is, the sweeter it'll be. And then I also like to add a full date. If you've never cooked with dates before, they are the best because they are so sweet, but it's such a natural sugar that it's not gonna give you sort of that jittery feeling that white processed sugar would do. Just make sure that you remove the pit because you don't wanna put this in your blender. And then I also like to add for sweetness and flavor, 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla extract, okay. Then we're gonna add a cup of milk. You can use almond milk, you can use soy milk, you can use cashew milk, any kind of milk will work. Then we're also gonna add 2 eggs. In they go. And then we're gonna add 2 teaspoons of baking powder. This is gonna give us a nice lift on our pancakes, and 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, and a good pinch of salt. Okay, then all we have to do is blend this up for about a minute or so until you get a nice thick batter. Now I will also say the longer you let the batter sit in the blender, the thicker it's gonna be because all of that oatmeal just absorbs all that moisture really quickly. So if that happens to you and it looks too thick, just add some more milk and blend it up again, not a problem. So I've got my griddle here heating up, and then I really like to use coconut oil for the greasing, because I find that it will create really nice color on your pancakes and won't burn like butter will. And then we are just gonna ladle out our pancakes. Then once you see little bubbles around the edges, you can give it a flip. Okay, before we plate our pancakes, let me give you 2 tips. So this batter is really thick and it can be hard to clean your blender afterwards. So just fill it up with warm water, then add a little bit of soap. We're gonna put the lid on and we're gonna blend it up. And see, it just loosens all that goo inside and it'll make it so much easier to clean after. Then after you've cooked all your pancakes, you can either pop them in the refrigerator and they'll last 4 to 5 days, or you can freeze them as well. I like to use these glass containers that are circular because it just works really well for pancakes. And then use either a paper napkin or a paper towel, place it in the container, and then wrap them up 2 at a time, or whatever you think the serving will be. And then the reason I use the paper towel over wax paper is that then when it comes time to microwave, you keep it in the paper towel, and this will keep them from drying out. And then all you do is undo it and put it on the plate. So easy. So we have our little stack of pancakes here. You certainly could put a little butter in between the pancakes. That would be good. And then instead of syrup, I use honey. I find that it's just less sweet. So I do honey, and then I do some sliced banana, and then a few blueberries as well. Okay, should we dig into them so I can describe what they taste like? Oh, they're so good. You definitely can feel the hardiness of the oatmeal, the sweetness of the date, and the honey brings it all together. So delicious. Okay, first breakfast down. Next, let's get to some eggs. Okay, breakfast number 2. If you like to have eggs for breakfast but are getting in a bit of a rut with just plain scrambled eggs and toast, try this instead. We're gonna make breakfast tacos. So you can get these little corn mini tortillas. I love them because they're great portion size for kids. Put them in a pan, and then we're gonna get our pan going at like a medium low flame, not too hot. We just want it hot enough to melt our cheese. So I'm gonna be using just some plain Monterey Jack cheese. Then I have 2 eggs that we're going to lightly scramble. I think 2 eggs is a good quantity because then that way each taco gets an egg. Normally I like to add a little heavy cream in my eggs. If you've never tried that, just try 1 teaspoon. But when I'm trying to be healthy during the week, I don't do it. So we're gonna be good. Okay, so our cheese is melted. This is looking good. So now I am just going to pop these on a plate until our eggs are done. This is my little go-to technique for making a really nice soft scrambled egg. First is you've got to get it on a very low flame. That is secret number 1. Then I have a little bit of butter here in the pan, and we want the butter to melt, and once it gets to be nice and sizzling, then we're gonna pour our eggs in. And even though this breakfast is a little bit more time consuming than the other, I'm trying to give you recipes so that every day, sometimes you have something just to microwave, sometimes you have something just to assemble. This is like a mini cook day, okay? So that you don't get so overwhelmed throughout the week, but that you still have some things that are nice and fresh and piping hot, like some delicious eggs. So then once the eggs start to adhere to the bottom of the pan like they're doing now, then you can go in with your spatula and just start to kind of move them around. And this technique of sort of the scrambling and the swirling will get you the nicest egg curds that are soft and delicious. We're gonna add a little bit of the scrambled egg onto each tortilla. Then instead of salt and pepper, I actually like to use a little bit of hot sauce because you have both, basically. You've got the heat and you've got the saltiness. This might not go over well with the kids, but you could do just some plain pico de gallo or some sort of mild salsa would be good. And then I also like to add a little bit of avocado for that healthy fat, right? And then I also like to add just a little bit of torn cilantro as well. In fact, I make this for all meals. This is my go-to comfort dish for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, so you can try it that way too. Let's take a little bite, shall we? This might not be very ladylike, but let's see. I'll try to be graceful. Oh, that's good. Because you have the cheese on the bottom, the toasty tortilla, the soft scrambled eggs, the hot sauce, the avocado, the cilantro. I mean, this will get a pep in your step, right? How could you not want this for breakfast? Okay, next up, breakfast number 3. So if you or your children eat cereal for breakfast every morning and then you feel like really hungry by 10 or 10:30, chances are you're just not getting enough nutrients. So this will be just as sweet, just as delicious, and just as comforting and like 10 times better for you. I'm going to show you how to make a delicious yogurt granola parfait topped with fresh raspberries. This is so easy during the week because if you make the granola on the weekend and it can stay on your countertop for a week, and then all you have to do is assemble the yogurt and the fruit for the breakfast. Okay, so we're going to start with 2 egg whites in a large bowl, just like that. And then for the sweetness, I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of honey. I think the problem with store-bought granola is that it's so sweet, and it doesn't need to be that way because we're going to add some dried fruit, and that will make it even sweeter in a natural way. And then we're also going to add 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. And then we're also going to add 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. And believe it or not, this is sweet enough, especially when we add the yogurt and the fruit. You're going to love it. It's going to be so much better than cereal, trust me. We're also going to add 2 cups of old-fashioned oats. It's one of the things I tried to do with these breakfasts is bring back some of these ingredients so that you didn't have a big list of things to buy that you're only using one time. We're also going to add ½ a cup of cashews. I find that kids that don't like nuts usually love cashews because they're really soft and buttery, and raw pistachios. Then we're just going to fold this together, and you really can use any nuts you like. I would just keep the quantity about the same. So once you feel like all of your oatmeal is coated with the egg white, then you can transfer it out onto a baking sheet. So try to use something that has a rim to it as far as baking sheets go. That way when you're baking it and you go to toss it, it won't toss all over your oven. Then I added about ½ a teaspoon of just vegetable oil. It will have a tendency of sticking if you don't add some type of oil. We're gonna put this in a 375-degree Fahrenheit oven for 7 minutes. At the 7-minute mark, then we are going to add ½ a cup of dried cherries. So I do it halfway through because if we added it now, they would get so hard by the time the granola is done that they'd be pretty hard to chew. So I find by adding them midway, they'll be chewy but soft as well. Then once it's done, it'll look like this. Then at this stage, I like to add 1/3 of a cup of unsweetened shredded coconut. I think the addition of the coconut is really delicious in granola. And then you can toss it about. As granola cools, it'll dry out as well. So when it first comes out, it might feel a little bit sticky. Just give it a few minutes to cool, and then it'll be nice and dry, and you can toss it like this. And then to store it for the week, I put it in something like this. See, and then this is the granola I made yesterday. I kind of like that it's clear, and my kids, when they walk in the kitchen, they can see through it, and they'll take a handful of this before reaching for the cookies or the popcorn. Then when it comes time to build the parfait, watch how easy this is. I really like to use these little yogurts that come in these 4-ounce pots. So you use one for the bottom, then you fill a little bit of granola on top, then add the second pot Top with a little bit more granola. Then I like to add raspberries. I'll typically do 3 or 4 of those. And if you have any blueberries left over from the pancakes earlier in the week, you can put a few of those on top too. How delicious is this? This will cure any sweet tooth, right? Okay, now if you're typically like a juice and toast type person, you might like this instead because this will have a ton more nutrients and will definitely fill you up to lunch. So what I have here is some toasted whole wheat bread, and then I'm going to add about a tablespoon of raw almond butter. And then we're gonna take a half of a banana, save the other half because we're gonna use that for our smoothie next. I also like to add raisins. I know there are a lot of raisin haters out there, so if you don't like raisins, you can leave them off. But I think it adds a nice chew to the toast. And then we're gonna go back to our shredded unsweetened coconut that we just used in the granola. Isn't that delicious? Okay, so for our smoothie, we're gonna take the other half of that banana and we're gonna pop it into our blender. And then we're also gonna add a cup of frozen berries. So this is just strawberries, raspberries, blackberries, and blueberries. And these berries are full of antioxidants and low in sugar, which is why I love to put them in smoothies. Then we're gonna do a cup of coconut water, which is a great substitution for milk if you're not doing dairy. And then we're also gonna add 1 little mandarin orange that I've cut in half, and I'm just gonna squeeze in the juice. And then the secret weapon, in my opinion, to this smoothie, the thing that really fills you up, are the chia seeds. So if you're not familiar with chia seeds, they look like this. They almost look like little poppy seeds, but they've become really trendy lately and you really can find them just about anywhere now in your grocery store. Why I like them is because they're full of fiber, they're full of protein, and when you put them in a smoothie, they really fill you up. So we're gonna add 1 tablespoon of the chia seeds. All right, let's blend it up. It's nice and thick thanks to the banana and the chia seeds. And this quantity fills up a mason jar glass perfectly. Let's give it a try, shall we? Oh, that's so good. It's tart and sweet, but so comforting because of the banana. It almost tastes like there's yogurt in it. And then the chia seed makes it really nice and thick and creamy. So here you go. This is a great breakfast, a sort of upgrade to toast and juice with a ton more nutrients. All right, so if you've been watching these breakfasts and you're like, I don't have time for any of that, Beth, I totally get it. Then I think this is the breakfast for you, a bowl of oatmeal. So my biggest tip when it comes to cooking oatmeal is don't follow the instructions on the back of the box. Do this instead. So what we're gonna do is get a cup of water in a pot and get that to boil. I also think the secret to oatmeal is having the right ratio of oats to water. So in my opinion, the perfect serving is a cup of water to a cup of oats. Easy to remember, right? And now it looks like our water is ready. It's nice and boiling. I'm gonna throw in my oats, give it a quick stir, and that's all you have to do. You don't have to touch them anymore. We're gonna put the lid on. You're gonna turn the flame off. Very important, turn the flame off. Because what's gonna happen is the steam is going to cook our oats perfectly, and you're not gonna have any of that gluiness that you have with traditional oats that tell you to cook over the cooktop, which I think is a bad idea. Yes, me. Okay, let's check on our oats. Perfect. See how loose they are? There's none of that gluiness. They're perfectly cooked. And let me show you how we're gonna top them. This is literally what I have for breakfast almost every day. I just find there is nothing quicker and more filling than a bowl of oatmeal. Okay, then you can also add a little bit of butter, especially if you're not using milk. So I think a little butter is always good. Then we're also gonna top with some diced apple, which is also full of fiber, a little bit of sweetness, but not overly sweet. Some raisins, you know I love my raisins. If you don't like raisins, you could add cranberries and a little pinch of cinnamon, which is really great with the apples and raisins this time of year. And then for a little bit of sweetness, just a drizzle of honey. There! Look at that, so delicious. I hope that this is helpful, whether you're going to school, work, or staying home and doing both. All right, you guys, I'll see you back here next week. Bye.